I'm Sari.
And I'm Haley.
And this is Seamwork Radio. Welcome back to Seamwork Radio, where we share practical ideas for building a creative process so you can sew with intention and joy. Today, we're talking about something that I think a lot of us need to hear: permission to play. We'll cover why even our beloved hobbies can sometimes start to feel stressful, how to recognize when you need a creative reset, and 10 concrete activities you can try to bring that sense of joy and experimentation back to your sewing. All right, Haley, let's do our icebreaker. Tell me about a time when you made something just for the pure fun of it with no plan or pressure to make it perfect.
Okay, I used to be really bad about this. And I was very structured in my sewing. But recently, I've just been having so much fun making like silly little like accessories, tote bags, zipper pouches, scrunchies. And it's been so fun just to like make these like utilitarian kind of projects. They're gonna get used, but they're the kinds of things that I don't take too seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if like my scrunchie is like super ridiculous or if like my grocery bag is super ridiculous. So it's been kind of fun to just incorporate more of those kinds of projects and allow myself the opportunity to improvise a little bit. Like use the giant rickrack that's been sitting like on my shelf for like a weird novelty stitch and just like kind of have fun. I've been trying to like do one quirky thing with each of those projects. And I've really enjoyed it. And I'm going to make it a priority, like in the future moving forward, to just have more fun little projects. What about you?
I really like that. I think, the thing that came to mind for me, I wouldn't say there's no plan, but it's the way I've been playing lately. So I've mentioned this before that I'm making a quilt throughout the year. So every month I make a new quilt block. And then in December, I'm going to put them all together and make the quilt top and hopefully quilt it in December or January. So it'll be a block for each month of 2025. And so there's a little bit of a plan to it or a reason I'm doing it. But the actual process of making, it's a sampler quilt, so every block is going to be different. And I just choose a block. I just choose one that I like. Don't really think about it too hard. And then I just pull out all my scraps and I start piecing things together and looking at how they all work together. And like you're saying, improvise and kind of figure out how, based on how I feel, what I think looks good that day. And I put together a block from it. And it's been really, really fun. And it's really gotten me into quilting. And it's made me want to make more quilts next year. It's been fun to do this one over the course of an entire year and really go super slow with it, and really takes the pressure off because I don't really feel like, I don't know, it just feels like a really fun thing to do for half an hour versus some huge daunting project.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it so much that I want to do more quilting next year for sure. So that's been really fun. And I think the improvisation of it is a big part of it, of what makes it feel that way. All right, well, if you have an icebreaker for a future episode, you can leave it for us. Just leave a question for us and a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll answer it in a future episode. You can also leave it in the Seamwork community. If you're a Seamwork member, we've got a thread there where you can leave your icebreaker questions. All right, well, let's get into our topic for today. So I've been thinking a lot lately about how we can sometimes lose the joy in our hobbies. It's something we've been kind of touching on in the last few episodes as well. And you just kind of know that feeling when you walk into your sewing room and instead of excitement, you feel this weight of all the projects you feel like you should be working on, or all the things that are half finished, or all the techniques that you feel like you should be learning. And it just kind of feels weighty instead of fun. And I think this especially happens to those of us who tend to be a little bit on the perfectionistic side, which I definitely think I can be. We start putting pressure on ourselves to make everything museum quality, or we get caught up in social media comparisons, or we create these elaborate sewing plans that start to feel more like homework than fun. And I think the truth is that sewing started as play for most of us. Maybe you were a kid cutting up fabric scraps, or maybe you fell in love with just the magic of transforming flat pieces into something three-dimensional. And that playful spirit is still there, but sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to access it again. So, Haley, do you ever find yourself getting too serious about your sewing?
I think sometimes because my time for sewing is so limited that I can get caught up in having this rigid plan. Like I need to optimize the amount of time that I have for sewing. So I really want to have a plan and execute it. And I think that in the past I've gotten caught up in that cycle, which is why recently, like I mentioned in the icebreaker, I've really been just trying to um, get away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Not always. I still love a plan, but just sprinkle in a little bit more fun. What about you?
I think now this might not apply to all of our listeners, but for me, something that gets in my way is that when I'm sewing for myself, even when I'm just sewing for myself, it's often going to be used in YouTube videos and things like that. And so I do feel like I have kind of deadlines around it. I have to get things done in a certain time frame. I lay out a plan and I kind of feel like I need to finish that plan. And so that puts pressure on me. And to be honest, most of the time that's not really a problem for me just because I enjoy the sewing process so much. And if I can, knock off a little bit early on a weekday to go sew and it's going to be used in a video, that's great. I have fun doing that. But I think where it gets stressful is when I just have so much and there's other things I want to do. Like right now, I've mentioned I'm working on these Roman shades and it just feels like that's getting in the way of the other sewing that I need to do. And will I have enough time to finish everything? And so when the time constraints get to be too tight, that's when it starts to feel less fun and a little bit more stressful.
Yeah.
So, and that might not apply to everybody listening, but you could be the kind of person who just puts pressure on yourself like that without having that external factor. So,
yeah. How do you know when you need a creative reset?
I think when I start to feel burned out on it and just I'm not enjoying it as much as I used to, I think that's a really good opportunity to take a step back and figure out if there's a different way to approach it or something I need to do to get me back in the swing of things again.
Yeah. I think for me that I tend to do two things when I need a creative reset. There's two signs. One is that I procrastinate my sewing time.
Yeah.
And then another thing that can happen is that I go through the motions of it, but I'm very focused on the product and not the process.
Mm-hmm.
That can also be a sign to me that I'm not what I'm working on isn't super creatively fulfilling to me in that moment.
Yeah, if I feel like I'm rushing, then that doesn't feel good. So I feel like for me, it's a question of quantity. If I have too much quantity to do, then it gets to be that way.
Yeah, the quantity and the type of sewing for me, just because that kind of changes what from season to season, what feels good.
Yeah. Yeah, the type of sewing also. I'm planning to make a pair of Chelsea jeans this fall, and I'm already sort of last time that took me a month to finish. That's going to cut a whole month out of my sewing plans, So there's a little bit of stress around that.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about some tips. So these are some of the things that can help. So when you do need one of those creative resets, sometimes there are just some really simple activities you can do to help you get back to the place you need to be and feel a little bit more playful. So we're going to go through 10 of these. So there's quite a few tips. So I'll start. The first one is making a scrap project. So I mentioned this kind of with the quilt that I'm making, but if you save scraps like I do, then sewing with them, it's inherently low stakes because they're just leftover fabric anyway. You don't feel as attached to the outcome, at least I don't. And there's just something so freeing about using materials that don't have any expectations attached to them. So you could make a simple drawstring bag, you could try out a new seam finish, or you can even just practice top stitching in different colors and see what looks good. The key is just choosing something small that you can finish in one sitting. I think this is a really great. I was just looking at my little pouch that I have for my sunglasses and thinking it'd be a fun little scrap project to make.
Oh, I love
Just
that.
something simple like that. Do you save your scraps?
I just pulled my scrap box out of my closet the other day because I was like, this is out of hand. I have like a big kind of like cardboard box with a lid on it. And the lid is like sitting like 4 inches above the top of the box, just kind of like balancing on a pile of scraps. And I opened it up and there was like things like, oh, like a 8x8 piece of like wool coating. And I'm like, what am I going to do with that? Like, be so for real, Haley. Like, yes, could I sit here and think of all the things I could do with it? Yes. But I need
Cat
to go.
toy.
Yeah, cat toy. But like, am I going to? I really need to go through it and organize it a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I guess I have scraps. Let's get into our next tip, which is to sort through your stash and use something immediately. So this can be a really fun creative exercise. So you can set a timer for 15 minutes and dig through those your fabric stash or your scraps to make that cat toy we mentioned. Find one item. It can be a fabric, a trim, a notion that you forgot that you had, and come up with an idea to use it right now. Bonus points if it's been in your stash for 5 years or more.
We all have those.
Yeah, there's many. This is about reminding yourself that materials are meant to be used and not like saved for someday. And sometimes the fabric that's been sitting there for the longest turns into the most like surprising and delightful little project. And this can be something like you could do something small, like that little like glasses pouch, the cat toy, or you could simply get started on like a bigger project as well.
Yeah, I find it really satisfying to go through my stash and use something that I already have.
Yeah.
Especially like we said, those things that have been there for many years.
Yep, guilty.
Okay, the next tip, which is kind of related, is to sew a simple scarf. So I actually just did this for my grandmother. My grandmother turned 96 this week, and I made her this really beautiful scarf. I had this Liberty silk georgette in my stash, and I just gave it a little baby hem, and it turned into this beautiful, beautiful scarf. And she really, really appreciated it. It's something where you don't need a pattern. You can just use any drapey fabric that you have in your stash. If you have a beautiful piece of silk or rayon, there's lots of different fabrics that you can use. You just cut a rectangle, hem the edges, and you're done. But, here's where the play can come in. You can try a rolled hem for the first time, or you can experiment with decorative stitches on your machine. You could do a hand-rolled hem. There's lots of different things that you can do with it. I did a little baby hem on mine. We have a tutorial on that on our YouTube channel if you want to learn how to do that. There's lots of different fun things you can do and just kind of practice different techniques. You could even cut it on the bias if you want some extra drape, or you could add in some hand stitch details or maybe a little bit of trim. It's just a little, low pressure canvas for trying something new. So, and I made a scarf for myself last year out of some wool knit, and I wore it all winter long. It's a really practical project too.
Yeah, I love that as an idea for using up like one of those like pretty little fabrics in your stash that you have like less than a yard of.
Yeah.
Our next tip is to try patchwork or quilting. There's something that's so meditative about just putting colors and prints together in whatever way feels pleasing to you. You don't need to make a whole quilt. Even a small block can become a pillowcase, pouch, a wall hanging, like an oven mitt. I love that with patchwork, there's no wrong way to do it. It's just like pure color and texture play, and you can use up smaller pieces of fabric that may not necessarily work for garments. It can just be like a really fun little like satisfying art project. Have you tried any quilting or patchworky techniques, Sari?
Well, like I said, I've been working on that one, a quilt, and I've made a few other quilts. I really want to learn some different quilting methods like paper piecing and things like that, which I haven't really dove into, but it is a really fun thing to play with. And I also want to make some kind of wall hangings and wall quilts for my house, which I think just looks so beautiful decorating the walls. I think that would be really, really fun too. But yeah, I love the fact that you can use those little pieces of fabric for things like that and that it can be so improvisational. And that brings us to our next tip, which is experimenting with improv quilting. So Haley mentioned patchwork, and this is like patchwork's even more playful cousin. So there really are no rules when it comes to improv quilting. You're just cutting and sewing pieces together based on what feels right in the moment. So you can think of it kind of like collage, but then with fabric. And you can make abstract compositions, you can play with negative space, or you can just see what happens when you combine textures and patterns together. And even if you never make a full quilt, these techniques really can add interesting design elements, even to garments too. But they can also be used for making things like pillows or little wall hangings, like we talked about. So other things that you would use patchwork for, you can also do improv quilting. We did a little improv quilting. This is a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Erica did a little workshop with us on an improv log cabin. Do you remember
Yeah.
that? It was so fun. It made me want to do more of it.
Yeah, and there's lots of different like quilt blocks that you can, if you don't want to go like full improv, you can do like the log cabin. And I'm not like a big quilter, so I can't name any more than that. But I do know that there's other styles that you can do. So you have kind of like a loose outline.
Loose structure. Yeah, it was called wonky log cabin. So you just are randomly cutting strips of fabric and then piecing them together into a log cabin shape. It was really fun.
Yeah, that was really fun. And then we pieced them all together and made a quilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah.
All right, for our next tip, you can try some fabric dyeing or painting. This is such a fun way to create something that's like a completely unique material for your projects. We have articles on our blog about techniques like ice dyeing and fabric marbling. You could dye some plain cotton to get the exact color that you want, or tie-dye something for like a more experimental look. Fabric paint is another really fun option. You can stencil designs or try block printing or just paint freehand. What I love about this is that you're creating the fabric itself, not just working with what's available in stores. So you can really create something that is truly custom and that may trigger some inspiration for sewing a garment from that custom fabric.
Yeah. I did this. This was several years ago. I did some block printing, and it was really fun because I did. I think it was the Colette Lily dress, which has a little. I don't know what you call it. It's not a collar at the top, but like a little
band
flap,
yeah,
at the top. And so I did. I want to say it was like white with blue block printing on it, and then the band was blue with white block printing on it, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was really fun. I love playing with fabric dye and things like that.
Yeah, I remember that. I think we still have the stamps in the closet.
Yeah, I think we do. I think we do.
I was like thinking of you carving like a potato.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember that. You use pre-made stamps. Yeah. It's really cool.
All right, the next one is to learn a new embellishment and then try it in a small way. So you could pick up a book on embroidery or beading or applique and just dive in. You could start with something really tiny, maybe just embellish a pocket on a plain shirt or add beading to a simple headband, something like that. The key is choosing techniques that feel completely new to you, so there's no pressure to be good at them yet. I think that's something that's really important for me. I don't want to feel like I have to be good at it, and being a beginner can sometimes be the best way to get in that mindset. I recently bought a book on beaded embroidery, and it's opened up this whole world of possibilities I'd never considered. I'm really excited about it because I enjoy doing embroidery, and I think beaded embroidery would be so cool. Maybe on like a sweater, on a little cardigan or something.
Oh, yeah, I can totally see that.
So pretty. Sometimes learning something that's completely different can really spark new ideas for your regular sewing too. So it's fun to add these little techniques to your repertoire.
Yeah, I love like a little mixed media
Hmm.
moment, which really leads into our next tip, which is combining different crafts. This is where things get like really fun and experimental. Maybe you knit or crochet some lace trim to sew a garment with, or crochet applique for a sweatshirt. You can embroider details on a quilted project or add woven elements to something that you sew. The point is that you just play around and see what happens when you mix different techniques together. There's something really satisfying about creating something that doesn't fit neatly into one
Hmm.
craft category. And when you can make space to have a little like craft crossover.
Hmm. I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to crochet like lace edging for one of my sewing projects, but I haven't done it yet. And I think that'd be really fun.
So cute. I could see like a little, or like crochet like little straps or something for a
Mhm.
tank dress.
Yeah, there's so many things that you can do with it, and with knitting too. It's fun to think about different ways that you could combine them. The next tip is to create a physical mood board. So, when I don't feel like actually sewing, making a mood board helps me plan while still using my hands. So, I like to gather physical stuff. I like magazine clippings or printed out photos, fabric swatches, whatever inspires you. I like to bring in trims, all that kinds of stuff, and then arrange them on either a piece of poster board or you could put them in a sketchbook. I have some cork tiles on my wall in my sewing shed that I use for building mood boards. It's really, really fun and it's just pure inspiration gathering. There's no pressure to make anything specific from it. And sometimes just the act of handling really beautiful materials and images can reignite your creative spark. It always gets me going through what I already own as well, looking for swatches, looking for little bits of trim that I could use and pin up on the wall. And it gets me thinking about things in a really different way and kind of thinking about how I can combine different elements that I already have into something new and something beautiful. So it's a really fun way to play.
Yeah, every couple years I like making my core style Pinterest board into like a physical mood board that I
Mhm.
can hang up in my space. Um I've been contemplating making a new one cuz my one that's currently hanging up is feeling a little tired.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's after a while it becomes just background, so I like to switch it
uh-huh.
up every once in a while.
Yeah, I do love your cork tiles. It's so great for that.
Mhm.
All right, and then our last tip is to make something that no one else will see. If you tend to get like really perfectionistic because you're thinking about like sharing your work, try making something that's just for you. It could be like a little travel laundry bag, a bookmark for your journal, organizing pouches for your sewing room. These utilitarian projects can be so freeing because the only person who needs to love them is you. And it reminds you that you create for your own joy and your own satisfaction and not to like impress anyone else. Plus, you end up with something that's useful, which also like always feels really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I love things that you can just see every day that just remind you of the act of making when you
Yeah.
look at them. It's really keeps you inspired throughout your days. All right, well, let me recap what we've covered today because we covered a lot. We talked about making scrap projects, shopping your stash with intention, sewing simple scarves, trying patchwork and improv quilting, experimenting with fabric dyeing, learning new embellishments, combining different crafts together, creating mood boards, and making things just for yourself. These are all different ways that you can return to a feeling of play in your sewing. My big takeaway from today is that really play is not frivolous. It's actually essential for keeping our creativity alive. And when we give ourselves permission to experiment without all those expectations around it, we often discover new techniques and ideas that we can bring to our more serious projects later, quote unquote, serious projects. You guys know what I'm saying. It really ties into the idea that sewing is really just all about decisions. And sometimes the best decisions come from a place of curiosity rather than pressure. What about you, Haley? What's your big takeaway?
Something that I was thinking about as we were having this discussion is that in children, we recognize that play is this really important thing that they need to do like daily, and the functions that it provides for them. It like provides them like learning opportunities, ways to like use their imagination. And it's also this like really important outlet for their energy. And as we like grow into adults, the ways that we play change, but the need for it is still the same. We still have all these like fundamental needs to like learn and explore and somewhere to put our energy and be imaginative. And creativity and creative practices can become that outlet for us. So I think that it can't, like you were saying, like it can feel like this like really frivolous thing, but it is like a very human need that we all have.
Yeah. It's interesting. That just made me think like we take these creative things that we do, which I think a lot of us have done since we were children, different ways of engaging with our creativity. And then we turn it into this very adult thing of accomplishment and productivity and, all of these kind of adult values. And it can be, I don't know, limiting.
Yeah.
Instead of, like you're saying, returning to the original intention behind it, which is enjoyment and having fun and all the things that come with that, all the good things that come with that, like you talked about. Yeah, I love that. I want to be more childlike in my sewing.
Yeah. I think we can all like benefit from that.
Yeah. And speaking of intentional creativity, the winter session of Design Your Wardrobe starts soon, which I'm really looking forward to. So if you've been feeling overwhelmed by all the possibilities in your sewing, or if you want to channel some of that playful energy we've been talking about into a direction, this program might be exactly what you need. We talked about making mood boards, for example. That's something that's a big part of this process, and it can feel really fun and really playful. So Design Your Wardrobe is our 4-week program that helps you think intentionally about making clothes that fit your life and your personality. So you'll share the journey with hundreds of other sewists as you follow along with this proven design process and learn how to make it your own. It's the perfect way to bring both play and purpose into your winter sewing plans. So you can learn more and sign up at seamwork.com/go/DYW. So that's seamwork.com/go/DYW. And if you like this episode, please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you happen to be listening to this right now. You can also follow us on YouTube at Seamwork Video. Definitely go over there and give us a follow if you haven't yet. We're producing new videos every single week. We put our heart and soul into those videos, and they're both a lot of fun, and there's a lot of great sewing techniques you can learn from them too. Plus, you can see what I'm sewing each season, which is also really fun. I love sharing that with you guys. You can also follow us on Instagram at Seamwork. And if you'd like to become part of the Seamwork community, head over to seamwork.com to learn how to join. And that'll get you access to that Design Your Wardrobe program, along with all of our patterns and skills workshops. And that's it for us this week. I'm Sari.
And I'm Haley.
And this is Seamwork Radio.